That's agenda, that's just. No, okay.
Yeah, it'll appear here. in the-
This is today's agenda. Did you get today's?
Oh, no, that's anything.
Oh, that one.
My agenda?
There's no.
Oh, maybe.
Sorry.
You need
Sorry.
that? I'm sorry.
It's like an agenda, but it's a minute.
Oh, I left. Agenda?
Oh,
you know, maybe Dorothy can pull it up.
Well, I have it on my.
screen.
Hey, I can't.
Everybody on Zoom.
I can pull it up on my phone.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
Right.
It's okay.
I think because the agenda was.
I have the minutes.
I have it.
Dorothy, are you all set?
Yeah, sorry.
Great.
Sorry.
Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for braving the cold to be here tonight. Let's start with call to order and roll call. I'm Mike DeCoursey, I'm the chair.
Paul Stern, vice chair.
Martina Wharton, member now.
Great.
Yes.
So you,
Chad Burns is attendant.
Dorothy Lau,
Chad Burns.
so Chad, do you want to say who
Say-
you are?
Yeah, I'm more here just in my private capacity because I wanted to kind of hear what's going on, but I also work in town hall as a housing inspector.
Oh, terrific.
And just a little bit, Chad is going in on a very frequent basis to look at, he does the inspections to make sure folks are compliant with the rental registration. So he's, has the pleasure of going to many of our, newer, but also many older apartment complexes. So,
But they're compliant with what?
Oh,
the rental,
The rental ordinances,
Oh, yes, right. so-
minimum code, and
Right.
an excellent resource for our committee.
I think I've seen you. in
probably.
yeah. So, and he's got just a really good sense of what is out there in terms of
Excellent.
multifamily housing and the
Right.
condition. So I'm really glad.
Yes.
Terrific. I'm glad you're here.
Debbie Pilato Fontaine, member.
Will Beagle member.
Jennifer Kaufman, Director of Planning and Development and staff.
Sheila Ander, member.
Great. Nice to welcome Debbie and Martina as members.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with approval of minutes. Any edits to the minutes?
I would move it, but I left
December
before the
7th.
meeting was over, so.
Any edits? Okay,
I'll move that they be approved as presented.
Second.
and second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Opportunity.
Is Christina still a member?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, opportunity for public comment. Chad, did you want to comment as a member of the public? No. Anyone else? I think we're good.
You can comment during the meeting too.
Yes.
We don't.
Okay, let's start with old business. So this is something we introduced last meeting, the trust fund application review form. So this was your chance to review it and see if you have any suggestions or edits. And hopefully someone will move to approve.
Am I late to the party? But I wondered about if numbers was the easiest way to assess all of these various categories. It's a scale, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, so my hope was that we would send this out to people before discussing the applications and then see where there's consensus so that it would facilitate the discussion of the application. So if you had something where everybody said, this is a 1, then we'd say, oh, we need to discuss this, or we could say we have a consensus, so we don't. we all
Although
agree
some
on
of
this.
Some of these things are facts. They're like black and white.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wouldn't scale them. I would
household.
say either they're doing it, either they're targeting these groups or they're not, so it would be yes or no, right?
Okay,
Rather than worst to best.
Yeah, if it says restricted housing, then it either is or it isn't.
Same with income below 50%, either you are.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to comment on semantics?
Sure.
Just, this is just something that I prefer for number 2. I hate putting labels before the word people. And
Good point.
It's, unhoused is the preferred term now in the literature.
So how do you want it to
People
read?
who are unhoused. Or those at risk of being unhoused or homeless, but not to say homeless people.
You could say at risk of homelessness, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right, you could just leave it at that.
Yeah,
sure.
at risk of
Yeah.
homelessness.
So would that be a scalable thing, or would that be either are people who don't have homes or they,
Well, no, you're either gonna target that group or you're not.
oh, I see. So it's,
They're at-
this is
So
the
it's yes
question
or
of,
no.
Assessment in itself.
yeah. So maybe we need to break these questions down to ones that are scalable and ones that are yes or no's.
Right.
sure.
Like displacement of existing tenants. You're gonna displace people or you're not, or unless you've got 100 of them, you're only gonna displace 10 of them. In which case,
Well, I think though, like, it's, if you are gonna be displacing them, then wouldn't it be, that would be, that might be a consideration where it wouldn't be as favorable of a project perhaps unless,
Right.
yeah,
like, it's a temporary displacement or something.
Or there was
Yeah.
a plan.
but it's kind of a nuanced question and issue.
So what's
Oh,
the
here
best
she
way
is.
to proceed? Do you want me to take another whack at it? 'Cause we
Yeah,
have-
that's
we
what
have
I mean, my
another
rec-
meeting.
Maybe simplify it
I'm
along those lines.
making checks of ones that can be,
You
Scale.
want to take a whack at it?
and,
They're gonna squeeze in it.
well, if
Okay.
somebody wants this, you wanna send me this, I'm not gonna type me
Sure.
this.
Okay, I'll send to Sheila. Thank you. So everyone good? Or take an edit?
Yeah.
So the way I did this was I was just pulling things out of the application that we did,
Good for you.
except for the top 6 or 7, which are our priorities. So that's the structure. Good. Anything else on that? So we have another meeting February 1st, so it's like 2 weeks, so I don't think there's any problem in delaying, and I'm sure Sheila will do a beautiful job. So I'll send that to you.
Well, and this isn't gonna slow up any other processes that might get underway, is it? I mean,
No.
if people
No.
apply for, we
Yeah.
can still let them apply and all that stuff.
Because our application is still in.
Yeah, this
review.
is just part of our internal backshop process of how to analyze the stuff.
Good, okay, so then, welcome Gina.
Hello.
So-
No,
I
we're happy
do
you're here in the
Can I
cold
just-
evening.
ask about though, in terms of what you're saying, Paul, this process. What is the process gonna be, Jennifer?
So this process is, I think it's not gonna be as straightforward as just putting an RFP out on the street. I think there's
Right.
gonna be a lot of nuances, right? So you've got, right now, you've got like 1.7 million or about approximately 2 million that can be spent.
Right.
Because now I think we can access the standard money. So I've just been sort of thinking about a lot of different ways that we could work to get this money out and get more units. And one of them is to do sort of a request for expression of interest to all of our older apartment complexes, like say, the town of Mansfield is requesting expressions of,
Yeah.
however Yukon does it, like requesting expressions of interest for owners of apartment complexes that were built pre-1990, whatever the number it is we choose, to work with the town to develop affordable housing. Or deep, and we could, this is all nuanced, right? So we could do renovations in exchange for deed restrictions. We could, and those renovations could include A, B, C, or D, whatever. And then we just start I think we have to start broad first, like with expressions of interest from these people. I think
Yeah.
Chad probably has a good sense of this. They're, they're waiting, there's a lot of money. People are holding, they're waiting for the best buyer, so I'm not sure how, how palatable this is gonna be to some of these multifamily developers, because the word on the street is that they want a lot of money, so I don't know, so, then I am gonna be meeting with the Housing Authority on Monday. I wanted to meet one-on-one with Rebecca Field, the executive director, just to kind of understand what their landscape is and try to figure out ways, what projects she could bring to the committee to move forward on. And then I just learned, Dorothy and and Allison will probably talk about this in the near future, but our CDBG Small Cities Grant can be used we could work with the Housing Authority, I think. We'd have to look into that in more detail, to actually spend down our PI, our principal and income, our program income. So, and that way, then we could, so there's all these different funding
Well,
This
sources.
is block grant money you're talking about.
Mhm.
I understand that really the interest in and focus on rehabbing these properties, but our focus should be on populations. So if we're, so who are the people that most need housing? So if we want to do, we have to think of some way that let's say, for example, we start with people who are, that's age restricted and people with incomes under 50%. We want to say, we have, this amount of money that, we'd like to see, how would you how would you use this to target these populations?
We
And
can put
projects-
that in the,
And then projects that use that to renovate existing property, will have higher,
Right.
will have a higher score. But I think we start with populations, not with renovations.
Well,
we-
it has to be, no matter what population, there has to be a renovation.
Well, there can be new construction.
Yeah, but I think we're looking for low hanging fruit in this case.
Well,
and-
maybe
And
so.
renovation is probably.
It may or may
overhanging.
not be low hanging
good
fruit
point.
in terms of the
we
cost.
said in the announcement, like every year, we can put a priority. So we can put that as this year's
Well,
priority.
if you're gonna try to
That's-
blanket,
Focus on people.
you're trying to blanket the
Indeed.
town with, and properties in town, existing properties in town with an appeal to step forward if you're even slightly interested. I think you could break down and say, these are some of the categories we give money to, and this is, and our
This
highest
is
priorities are, age restricted and
Yep.
lowest income. And by the way, we have X million dollars in our pockets. I think we should, as a bait, say, look, we've got all this money.
Oh, yes.
We're looking for a way to spend
And
it.
how can you, but.
And you might be able to get some if you meet our criteria.
Yeah, and we want to know how they leverage and if that's
Yeah.
leveraging of other funding
So
sources.
I think we are gonna have to work with a consultant on this. We don't have the staff capacity to do this in
Yeah.
Mansfield. And my department, we have a department of 4. And, or actually,
Right.
one of my staff works really part-time for Parks and Rec. So I think we're probably gonna have to work with someone there. At a staff level, I told Michael and Paul, I think, that I met with the executive director of it's called Echo Homes, and they're a nonprofit. And that they do affordable housing in Eastern Connecticut. And they understand this very complex world of affordable housing financing. And she had a bunch of different ideas, and one of them was that we would actually we would just give loans from our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And because much of if you're doing affordable housing, there's so much state and federal money, but what happens is these groups can't get started. They don't have the money to do the site work, to do the architectural, to do the permitting, which is, it can be like $500,000. And so, but that's reimbursable. So one thing that
Not
she,
always, no, I mean,
well, it can be.
yes.
And if it's not, then,
Right.
we talk through that. And one thing we could do is offer like say we have $1 million for startup. And, you know, 200,000 is will be, forgivable, but then we expect that 800,000, you know, all of these things have to be
To work
worked
it
out,
out.
and they're complicated.
Work it out.
They need attorneys, they need people who do finance.
So you said
Simple.
you'll get a consultant and the consultant will meet with our committee,
I think so. Yeah, I think that would,
and how soon
well, we have to do we would have to draft an RFP. I'd want this committee to kind of,
for the consultant?
yeah, we can't
Okay.
just hire a consultant. We
Right.
have to,
that come out of our budget or?
yeah, it would. It would have to come out of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or
I
it
think
could come,
education's worth
I mean,
investing.
we're asking
I
for,
don't see why I think it should come out of the town budget. Is this town committed to affordable housing and using the housing trust fund for the purposes for which, and I know that's one of the purposes they put in there,
yeah.
but I think it's,
Well, you could go to the council,
Yes.
the council could go, you could do, you could put a position in the budget.
A
Or
full-time position, that kind of a position.
No, you
it could
could
be,
use it for
or you could put,
consultation.
you could put consulting.
Oh, I see.
I'd rather just do a consulting.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, we don't need a
no.
position.
What- Is there any way,
Do you have any sense of what it would
I
cost?
could get a grant?
I would say if you're gonna do this, like, I don't know, you'd probably want them on staff, so I'm thinking. Get to 100 would be something we'd probably need to work with them. Or, I don't know, we'd have to do these requests for proposals, but we'd want them to manage this whole process.
What kind of consultant does that kind of work?
Well, this group
Oh,
called
there's lots
Echo
of them.
Home.
Well, I'm looking at Echo, they don't look like,
They don't,
it's what I'm looking at their website right now.
So-
Julie Savin is the president. Is
Yeah.
that the?
yep, what are you, there's,
Oh,
Oh,
like-
there's a dog on the list of.
So are
Roger
other,
the dog is their director of well-being.
are other
They
options?
don't look like a very big outfit,
Oh.
judging from their website.
well, I don't think they are big, but they do this in Eastern Connecticut.
Okay.
So
So our other option is to ask the town for money?
you could ask for a budget request. It could come
But then they're
from-
gonna sit, and they're gonna say, we just gave you $500,000.
Right, so
And then
how do
they-
we
they
want to
did?
proceed?
Yeah, they in the budget.
Let's get an action on the table. What's
They
the,
put it in
how
the
do we
budget.
want to
in the last
proceed?
budget.
There was
We
a half
want
million for the
to-
trust fund?
No, yeah,
Yeah, that they put in,
Yeah.
that we had a surplus.
That's
And,
possible.
and I have
To use
100 going in for the next 5 years.
Okay, so that's possible to use.
Yep.
But is there any way that, you know, the whole initiative that the Eastern Connecticut Foundation, the Community Foundation, and they did it with a number of other people, the whole housing initiative that they put together, what do they call it?
the one that Mike and I went to.
That's right,
Geo.
and I went to one of their, I
Geo,
wonder if we said to them, the
Housing.
town, you know, that
Center for Housing Equity. and
that we don't want to
Opportunity.
use our trust funds monies for this, the town is already
So,
enhance this. So what if, would they be interested if we can get, we need to get professional help to do this. And if they can give us a grant and the town would match it.
I can ask her.
They might have some expertise in this area too. They might have some,
I can also
people
ask.
who've already been down this path. Besides Echo, I mean,
I can ask Kara, who was the woman that provided the speaker for last meeting. I can ask them both. I'll take that as an
I mean, we could
action.
apply for grants if you got that, but at some point, I think we just need to get moving.
Yeah, we got-
And if
So-
the grant is like 20, I don't know, I sort of feel like we need to get going and then apply for grants to get this housing built.
well, if
But
the
we
grant
can-
is willing to reimburse us for the money we laid out for a
Right.
consultant, that's.
So as an
Kind
action,
of
I'll
low-
ask both those people if they can provide a resource.
Yeah.
And then,
And
do
I'll
we
talk
want
to-
any other action?
I'll talk to the partnership
Because.
because they're really
Yes.
a strong community.
Larry Flooch,
Yeah,
that's what he does also. He does this type of work and he might be able to help. I was,
the fellow that works with the housing
yeah.
authority.
mhm.
Yeah, and he's retiring, but he would know
And
3 million
they,
people.
they work together. So
Okay.
when we do the RFP, we can't just hire anyone we want. We have to scope out what it is we're asking
Right.
for. We have to do an RFP. We have to go through the town's purchasing process. Then we, maybe
Okay.
this Echo Homes is good, maybe not.
Right.
I don't know. We'd have to see. what
I
they-
don't think we're gonna get someone to agree to do this long-term for free.
We won't.
Right.
No, no. No.
It's big work.
Right,
And it's,
okay.
Well, and our needs might change after year
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Right,
Should
like once
we-
the process is established and we're managing something, that is much
Yeah.
different.
And the process in some sense is going to invent itself as we go along, trying to get our arms around some actual organization, people that want to do this kind of work. And we're
There
gonna
are
find,
lots of people, I think.
well, okay,
There really are. There really are a lot of
Do
people.
we,
do This kind of consulting.
do we wanna do anything regarding who's gonna pay for this tonight?
Pay for what tonight?
The consultant,
And I say we do some research and bring. it
Yeah,
to the
let's,
next
Okay.
yes, yeah.
that's fine.
you know, this is budget time. I just submitted my budget. It was due on Tuesday. So if, but I-
Sounds like a good.
I did, put in 100,000 over the next, because if you're doing a capital, this is a capital expenditure, you can do 5 years, so I've just put that placeholder in for 100 every year, and then you're not dipping into the existing
Right,
money that you have, and you
right.
have like 5.4 million, I think, if once the hub deposits their fee in lieu.
Well, and
Any
once we-
strong feelings here, any
And
emotions?
that gets at what you're saying, then the town is paying for it if it's about 100,000,
Yeah.
because it'd be the.
Right, that's right.
Right?
It's not like they're depleting the fund without.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be, all right.
I'm not really
So
sure on what it
a
is
little bit less.
we're
Okay.
wanting to do, what the steps are here, because the consultant is just a means to an end, right? It's the first step in a multi-step process of
Building
Getting
affordable
ha-
housing.
getting housing builders rounded up who actually want to take the money and do the work.
They'd help us, we get a consultant, they would help us develop the RFI or the RFQ, or request for qualifications, however we put it out. So
Okay.
they would help us develop that,
Okay,
right?
so it's a step before we actually
Yes.
reach out to the
Right.
public
And then
building community.
that help us, work with us to help choose
Okay,
who gets it, and then hopefully help us then oversee it.
okay.
Just help us manage this process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the actions are, we're going to do a little research in terms of
Stuff.
who can do this type of work. And then maybe next meeting, do we want to decide on committing funds from,
Or recommending.
Yeah, we
the
can't commit any
council.
funds ourselves anyway, but we can.
no, but decide whether we're gonna
Right, so-
suggest that, or we take it out of our budget.
I mean, if you want to, if someone wants to do some sort of research on what kinds of consultants are out there,
Right.
certain scopes of work that, I mean, requests for proposals that other towns have done.
Yeah, I'm gonna try
Maybe
to see if we can find a
The
prototype.
partnership,
Yeah, that's
Like
where I
a
thought the partnership or even CHIO might have some
Right.
handle on
and I'm
it.
gonna talk with Rebecca Fields, who worked with Larry, and I meet with Larry every month to talk about this, the infrastructure project that we're doing out here on Route 275, so.
So I think that's good. We have another meeting in 2 weeks. So let's try to bring that information back for the next meeting. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
Enough progress?
Our target is some action on February.
First, right,
First.
as more well-informed committee members.
to find out what, I think, just to define that action a little bit more, it's what are we gonna ask for? That's the hardest thing when you're doing a scope of work like this. What are we asking for? We're looking for someone to help the town develop affordable housing. And we've got all sorts of things that are happening. We've got these aging apartment complexes.
Yeah.
We've got a housing authority that has land that's willing, ready to embark on another project. We've got,
We've got buildings like the Northwest
yeah,
School.
we've got
Goodwood
Goodwin
School.
and Vinton. Yeah, and so I think it's kind of scoping out what we want. And
Good,
then you've already done your priorities. So you, like, if a project were to come in, that's when you look at them against your priorities and your spreadsheet and you start ranking them, I think.
yeah,
And that's when you would make a recommendation to the town council and we
yeah,
get going.
Can I ask a quick question? For the deed restrictions on the rent, is that something that is like, there's a framework set up that if somebody was interested and stepped up, that could pretty much happen pretty quickly? Or-
Yes, So we could use, all of the apartment complexes that, have been built, they have a deed restriction. And so we could use that as a model. And then work with our attorney and their attorney to kind of figure that
I don't
out.
know if it's the same as what's on the Viewerville Green, because they have to have a deed restriction for the grant, for the state grant funding.
Right, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
if someone wanted to come forward and do that, we certainly would, like, we would go to other towns, we would work with our attorney to get that done.
Right, but they would want something in exchange for giving up a deed restriction, and usually it's money.
Well, and that's what I was talking with Ryan, our town manager, about, because when you're valuing, I've done a lot of, like with the Stearns Farm, right? We purchase development rights. There's a clear and defined appraisal strategy for that, where you go and you look at the land and you see how much it's valued, and then you say the development rights are worth like X%. And there's a whole formal methodology. I don't know if there's a formal appraisal methodology for valuing a 40-year or deed restriction for
Right.
affordable housing. I don't know what that
No.
costs. Like, you can figure that out for
We
open
have a
space.
formula that tells.
Or
us
does
that.
it matter what it costs? I mean, it,
Well, if we have to, how are we gonna justify
That's
that we
state-
that's the
pay that?
standard
And,
thing.
you know what I mean, how do we negotiate a price? Like when you're buying open space?
oh,
or-
when
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
buying, oh, I see.
Yeah.
There's some
I see.
terminology about
One
that
for
in
the-
the
okay.
tax abatement stuff, but I didn't. Get over my head.
Yeah, but again, that would be, we'd have to hire
Right,
a
right.
professional who does that and puts their stamp and says, this is what town council, this is what I think it's worth, and
Right,
that's why I'm justifying that you can spend this money.
right. But no one would want to deed restrict our property unless they were getting some significant kind of return for the use of that property over the long term, over 40
Unless,
years.
unless they're taking a tax deduction like they would for
I mean,
conservation.
Is there,
easement.
is there such a thing? That
Maybe,
would be
the lots
interesting,
of,
wouldn't it?
yeah,
Good, okay, so let's move on. This is just a quick item from last meeting. The age restricted housing, there was an action to send a letter to the town manager. Did that happen? Will?
I think she did it.
I,
You mean on
yeah.
our part?
yeah, on
I
our,
think she did it.
who did it?
Our secretary, what's her name?
Lori?
Yeah, Laura, we have.
I haven't seen one. At the last meeting, we decided that we were gonna, the whole committee was gonna sign the letter
Right.
in order
This
to send
committee?
it out.
No,
It's Commission on Aging. We were all gonna sign the letter and send it out, and Allison was supposed to send it to
Right,
you
yeah.
and you.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
And-
get
It's
it.
the letter that we.
I don't,
sent to Mr. Hoffman.
from what I understand, the letter is still, she still has the letter, from what I understand.
Laura or?
Laura,
Laura still has it?
well, yeah, she still has the letter, from what I understand. Nothing's been done on it since we approved it.
And I was, and
Okay.
this is, and I was supposed to write a letter. That for us to review to request facility to look at available properties for affordable housing. But then I looked at the facility plan and
Right.
they've already,
Right,
So it made
the
that
plan is
necessary.
ready.
didn't it?
So,
Yeah.
regarding that letter.
As soon as I
you're gonna
find out
get a
something,
copy?
As soon as I find out,
Yeah,
I'll let you
Okay.
know. Okay,
thank you.
If we could keep Dorothy and me in the loop so that we
Right.
can make sure that you guys.
Make it part of our.
well,
That's what we had planned.
That's what, that's.
That's what we asked.
that's what the plan all along.
The holidays happen, you
Yeah.
know,
I didn't even get a copy of the letter, so I don't even know, because we had some addendum or something to do to it.
Right.
Yeah, and so she was supposed to retype it up and get it to Allison, and Allison was supposed to send it out, disperse it, so.
We'll have to get it.
But from what I understand, it's in limbo.
I'm
No, I'm
gonna
very
leave it in my
upset. I'm very
notes and I'll
upset with
check
it.
back with like Dorothy and Jennifer, and if it doesn't happen, I'll get back to you.
No,
We'll
we'll,
get it going.
no,
Good,
Martina and I will get it done.
good. Okay, the high density housing work session on the 4th. Great to see a lot of attendees from this committee there.
How late did it go? I finally left.
A couple hours.
yeah,
I had to leave, I
Hour
had
and
no
a half.
voice, so
oh, no.
I was there, I was like, I can't.
I think one thing I noticed, which was great, was in the beginning when they were surveying, affordable housing was like a high priority.
It
Yes.
was.
Strong,
Yeah,
high
very
priority,
good,
so
yeah.
that's good, that's the town, that represents lots of different people in the town on committees, so that's good. Anything else from there?
So there, our consultant Tyke Planning and Policy has developed a summary of that, and I
Oh,
can
good.
send that out to the committee.
That'd be
Great.
I don't think there were any aha moments from my perspective and from Tyke's perspective and from staff, but I think what something like this does is it allows people to make sure that their voice was heard.
Yeah,
And then for us to document it, to make sure that you understand that we've heard you, you know what I mean? So this is gonna go out to the committees. I just got this yesterday. And the regulatory review committee from planning and zoning is gonna look at it. But basically, I think, you know, people are looking for a different form. They think they want more affordable housing. They, you know, surprisingly, they feel like if we are gonna have high density housing, it belongs in the areas that are depicted on the plan of conservation and development. That's what they heard from a lot of people. Four Corners, Store Center, by Eastbrook Mall.
It's already there.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's where we have water and sewer. So, yeah, I think they definitely want to see more family housing. They want to see, you know, pedestrian friendly. There's definitely a very, in this town, people are very supportive of affordable housing, and I
Yeah.
think
It's amazing.
the planning and zoning commission has heard it loud and
It's
clear.
really amazing.
Yeah, that the fee in lieu needs to be increased and improved, and yeah, I think I have to update you on the next on that, so.
that's down later.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so new business, the first thing is the tax abatement ordinance, which we talked about a little bit, so let me just tell you my process. I worked on this.
Well, you like this.
Yeah, I found 9 samples and they were very different. Some were similar to others, but a lot of them had different content. So I basically listed all the types of things they were doing, and then I cut and paste what I found into this document as a sample with the idea that we will add an introduction and then send this to the town council and ask them to
I'm not ready to send it to the
consider
town council.
adopting it.
I think
No?
we'll run this
Yes.
by, I think what I can do is sort of run this by, the director of finance and the town manager,
Sure.
just so that they, and, you know, look at.
As a sample.
Right, exactly. And then, if you want to establish an ordinance, the process is that, you write an agenda item summary, kind of arguing your point as to why this is important. Bring it to the town council, then they have an ordinance review subcommittee. They look at all the nuances. Massage it with our town attorney, make sure it's, you know, worded correctly, and then the town council has a public hearing. And if all goes well, the ordinance gets.
I have a lot of questions about it, though.
So let me
Me too.
clarify a point first. You said the first step is to give it to the director of finance?
I think, you know, what I think I want her feedback before
we
it goes
need
straight
an-
to
It's got a
council.
cost.
Do we need an introduction for that?
I think, you know, is there any information on? Can someone put
Maybe
together
we
a
should,
paragraph
yeah.
on like what,
No.
why
Volunteers?
why should we bother doing this? Because
Well, that was gonna be my question.
Because they're gonna say, we already gave Eagleville Green a payment in lieu of, right? So, and that's sort of been the practice, and that probably will be the practice.
I think this is opening a can of worms, because I would not, for example, want to see tax abatements, any tax abatement being given to the properties that are doing the 15% set aside for 80% median income. I don't think they should get any tax abatements at all. I mean, these are profitable properties, and I would not give them a tax abatement. I'm interested where you got these, because when I asked Michael Santoro, but I don't think he did much.
I
searching.
wrote a
You did-
list
You
here.
did much more searching.
On
He
the
gave
third
me
page, there's a
Copies of
list.
ordinances,
Yeah, I looked at his stuff.
But
It's
it was-
not,
but it was
Here's the ones I
project
found.
specific.
these were hyperlinks. I don't know if
Oh,
they came
yes.
through though.
got- okay.
So if you didn't get them. You can
No, you
get
did
them.
this an incredible job, Michael. I just
Yeah,
think it is
well,
over.
I guess I
So-
don't have a good understanding, big picture understanding of how we would use these, how they would be used properly benefit affordable housing and as a tool in our toolbox. Hey.
Item 3, use of tax abatement funds to reduce rents below the levels which would be achieved in the absence of such a.
I understand the concept there. What I don't
Okay.
understand is that I'm trying to picture how it actually play out in reality. And like. Tax abatement, well, even the numbers concern me too, because I don't know, the taxes that are on a particular property. You can abate them, and it doesn't mean that there's enough money there necessarily to do anything, or there's too much money to do something.
So the numbers have to
The
be
numbers
worked
are
out, and I'm
critical.
not, I don't think our committee is even gonna get close to that.
That's where our director
So
of
we
finance
let
needs to.
somebody else do that.
And that's where I.
And the developer can do that, or the
Is it-
owner.
Is it gonna be an incentive to a developer to build affordable housing? That's the big picture, right? You build affordable housing of a certain kind and we'll abate your taxes and we'll use that money to improve the lives of the people there, and the state will reimburse us all for the.
Well, the state won't necessarily reimburse anything,
No.
but
That
That's
was one of my.
that's one
the
of the
state's not gonna
expenses.
reimburse.
The
any of
state
it.
doesn't reimburse you.
So that's.
There was
I read
Is
something
there?
about
Lot
state,
of-
state money.
a lot of talk in these about state reimbursements, and I wrote it in here, and there's the second clause. 8-216, state reimbursement for tax
payment, right?
abatements. That's like Connecticut general
In
statute.
certain
Yeah, if you
cases,
look at-
terms of the contract shall be conditioned upon its approval of state reimbursement.
Yeah,
In
that-
those instances where the town, as a
That's-
condition, will be asking reimbursement in the form of grant and aid by the state.
I think,
I pulled
Cites a
that out
statute.
of
Okay.
somebody's.
I think anybody that develops affordable housing, does that, that's what they do. They expect to sit down with the town and talk about tax abatement. They don't always necessarily expect to have everything waived.
Right.
But they expect to have enough waived that if they can support their rents, they can support their budget.
Do nonprofits need a tax abatement?
Well,
Does a nonprofit pay taxes on
Five oh
property?
one C three.
they have, Eagleville Green has a payment in lieu. They negotiated a payment in lieu of taxes. So, and they're a nonprofit,
Yes.
but I guess,
Are they 501c3?
I'm not sure.
I don't think they are.
No, that's,
The
you got your
nonprofit-
501c3.
The man's-
But I
nonprofit.
could see, an example would be go to an apartment complex that needs renovations. They have two costs, the renovation and then the lowered rent. We use tax abatement, say for the lower rent, we try to find money for the renovations. If we put those two pieces together, the tax abatement would be long-term, and that's
Be a way to keep
40-year
rents down.
deed restriction,
Yeah.
right? That's
Well,
what I'm thinking. If
but
you-
I
And then you
think-
have to work out the numbers. Maybe you can only,
But
you
that would
know,
have to be a
the
for-profit
tax
operation.
generates so much to
Your
cover.
churches don't pay property taxes, do they?
I don't.
No,
But
but you
sometimes
might,
if
the
churches
tax
develop
abatement
housing,
might only be
They
enough
pay a
to do
payment in lieu of.
30 units.
In lieu of,
Because they might not, as a 501c3 developer, they would be I don't know what corporate says.
you know, there's
C4.
4C4s. and-
Yeah.
Do we want to take the first step on this and have Jennifer take it to the director of finance?
No, I'm not ready. I would, first of all, we just got this in the last couple of days, so you've really done a lot of work. This is incredible.
I-
But
All I did,
I wonder if I should just
All I
take
did
her
was cut
temperature
and
and say,
paste.
as a tool, do you think this is a good idea? Because we can put guardrails on it to say that if it's,
yeah,
it's only for 60%,
yeah.
only for nonprofits,
Right.
only for,
One of them
50%
said
or
only
less,
for
or
something like
nonprofit.
that.
AMI or something like that.
set the income limit.
exactly,
I wouldn't do it for 80%.
right.
You might
only for 50.
negotiate something, but
Yeah. I don't want to open up that can of worms
So-
for the standard to come in and
Well, no, yes, that's exactly what we don't want,
exactly.
you know?
unless they're giving.
We want
us
these
something.
big money off corporations to pay through the nose for the privilege of building in our town. If you ask me, that's how I would get it. And the way they pay through the nose is by giving us the affordable housing that we need, and, we don't
But
need.
this is not getting rid of that.
No, but the concern is that a for-profit company comes in and swings a tax abatement deal that.
But then
that's
that,
Too sweet.
that tax abatement is being used for affordable housing.
Well, yeah, I just say, we just got this. It would be a good idea.
That's
for us to
fine.
review
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance to look up.
I'd like to know of a real world.
So again, all I did was cut and paste
What's-
from these
That's
9.
quite a bit of work.
Good
Yeah.
work.
You can go in there and read all those. There's some, like one place did not include private developers. They said nonprofits.
I'm just
Mm.
curious.
Are there towns where
How
they
they
do
use
this?
Simsbury has one, right?
It's in this.
All
right here.
these.
All these towns do this?
Yeah,
So could we like find out a way to talk to them about how they do it, whether it works and how it works? As a
Stamford is
practical
one of the
matter.
bigger ones. of it.
I mean, Hartford is
New
probably not a
Haven.
good example.
No, yeah,
Okay,
Simsbury.
Simsbury.
Why don't we talk, why don't I do this? I will talk to,
Simsbury.
I'll run it by Maria, who used to be the town manager of Simsbury, see what she thinks about it. And then, it can be tailored.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have all the tools we can have. It's just got to be careful that they don't be used against us. Or in lieu of, better tools.
Okay, so what's our action to research it more?
Yes, I think so.
Just fine.
Flint, yeah.
Fund.
So we have a meeting in 2 weeks, so
So we're all to review these.
Well, let's, yeah.
You have time to talk to Maria and, and
I'm gonna have to get all this done in 2 weeks.
It is budget season and
Yeah.
they're all kind of engrossed with that, so.
if the links didn't come through for any reason on these town ordinances, the 9 at the end, let me know and I'll send them to you. I think they got lost in the PDF. Wow. Right.
I'm trying to click on them now. They're not.
No,
Not working.
I couldn't click on
Okay.
the.
So I'm gonna send,
I think I have.
I think they got creamed in the PDF.
But did you send me a PDF or did you send
Yeah, I
me-
sent you just.
Oh, So this is development based, this housing development engagement proposals.
Can I ask a dumb question?
No,
Sure, all questions are welcome.
Those things.
I offer my guarantee of its dumbness. So is there any sort of language or restrictions on the new development that's going to take place that is going to prevent it from just becoming more student housing?
No,
That's a big question.
Well, wait,
Because if they meet the income
Well-
requirements,
so yes, right, Sheila is correct in that, they have to meet. There's a provision, and I can give you the language that was in the approval, that they have to use the HUD. Section 8 guidelines for qualifying students. So for example, if you're a veteran, or it's not just like my daughter who made, $5 grand over the year. So she would qualify income wise, but they have to look at your parents' income, is my understanding. It's just, there's a whole methodology that they're.
so
gonna
for
have to
example,
use.
if you come from a family where the family is receiving Section 8 housing.
Right.
And you, and your family meets the income guidelines, then this would be applied to that student, because it might actually be a poor student. Who
Okay.
potentially could rent it,
okay,
but,
is the age cap like?
but it's still gonna be expensive. It's gonna be more expensive for that student than they could afford, frankly.
At what point is the cutoff that the income of the parent would be included?
But age 25. I
Oh, Is
think.
is it 25 or is it when you're a dependent? If you're still in your
I
parents'
don't know, I'd have to
taxes?
go back and read the.
Yeah,
It's a dependent.
Well, we're
There's a
gonna have to,
whole,
that's
um,
that's gonna be all ironed out before they get a certificate of zoning
Yeah.
compliance and a CO. So we're not there yet, but there is that provision.
It's a big concern.
Somewhere I have those HUD guidelines.
Yeah, kind of, I guess where I would go on that is to my knowledge, according to what UConn publishes, only 1% of graduates are housed on campus. And so not so much the
Oh,
undergraduate.
graduate students, yeah.
Yeah, they're in.
Yeah, no, they're not.
They're
very-
in.
Temporary residents of the town versus the
Yeah.
affordable housing being built for people that are actually trying
Yeah.
to like contribute to the
Yeah.
community longer term, not to alienate, but transient.
Well, there are
versus-
graduate students and graduate student couples and families that meet the requirements.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's-
for affordable
And
housing.
it does alienate them to exclude them because they're here and they are part of our community and they are contributing to our community by purchasing and living, and many of them have children in our school system.
Yeah, I mean, they
Very
added so much to my
Except-
kids.
Yeah, I mean, so
the
I,
Linco people, but
yeah,
the
I
people.
don't, I see the concern, but I also think it's discrimination to say. that
Finding a
he's up to
balance.
25.
Yeah,
So they probably, grad students probably stay here maybe 5 years.
Except Chad,
But,
the university should be addressing this,
but probably
they're not.
none of
Well,
them
they
are
were
gonna
gonna build
stay
it. That
after
was
they
gonna be bad.
Yeah, that was
graduate.
gonna be,
But,
yeah.
but not for income
Very
uh,
few.
needy.
No,
very
yeah, they
few
don't.
Universities handle graduate housing or PhD.
Right.
So, I mean, it's up to the person when they accept into a program.
The bigger point here, and every time we talk of this way, is that our committee, our town needs to be in sync or in communication with UConn with a lot more than we are now.
Right.
We, got this huge institution that anything they do affects us. And when we do stuff, it
Right.
affects them. I mean, in theory, we could build so much housing, they don't even need student housing anymore. And we could suck the life right out of the campus, in theory. But we really need to have more communication back and forth, so we work in cooperative ways, not in opposing ways or, in the
Right.
dark.
So I did invite, I had some lengthy conversations with their current director of housing.
Oh,
And so
great.
he recommended someone to come to be a part of the committee. And so I talked to them, and he has 4 young kids, and unfortunately I think they have a cold. But so I'm hoping he will come to the next meeting.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, if you think about it, they might have just gotten the knees kicked out from them as well, that there's this development that's going in.
We don't know,
which-
that's the
Yeah, I
problem.
mean, and UConn could also make a decision that, oh, we'll just now increase and take 1,000 more students, and it has, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Or they could-
variables that.
Or they
no
could
one
reduce their rent,
Yeah,
all their housing, and then,
I know, I
So
mean,
many
there's a
things
lot
they
of.
could-
Chad, did you get your question answered?
I can give you
So
what.
there are
what that-
some
Those terms.
Ways to limit who can do it, but you can't exclude needy.
Gina, you're,
yeah, I guess.
let
I
me
was-
know.
Yeah,
Kind of as
so-
a-
February
As like a
1st.
follow-up, if I don't know that there necessarily is a consensus
Texted
with
him
the
already
various
here, but
people.
so.
I wrote it down, so-
Wait.
What is deemed to be like the largest contributor
Are
to
you in
lack of
email?
affordable housing?
Just copy me if you're emailing.
Largest contributor is there isn't any.
Same loop. Great.
I mean, it's the demand exceeds the supply
It's
and,
a lot longer.
and the rents can be
No.
very high, and it probably is true. But because we're in a university community, but if you look on all the surrounding towns, except for Wyndham, which has almost 30% of their housing affordable. They're not doing it. None of the towns are doing anything either for the people who need housing.
right, so 2 acre,
So
2
it's-
acre and bigger
there just-
properties, people.
There just isn't any. I mean, there's hardly any available, and that's deed restricted housing, that's income restricted. There are lots of private apartments, but they can charge whatever.
I was surprised how many people I run into that, I guess, on their own as owners are actually below the HUD requirement for a 2-bedroom or the HUD maximum, like significantly below that. Which I was surprised, because typically people are gonna want to charge more, but I've run into quite a few 2-bedrooms where they could easily be 1,750 and they're substantially less than that. And so there's naturally occurring affordable housing that just unreal,
Right.
but I'm just talking to people and finding out some of that sort of stuff, but I mean, ultimately, I guess the thing that's always confusing.
Well,
is it's-
except that for section 8, for example,
Mhm.
they get 2,000, 3,000 applicants. And they can only take, whatever it is, 150, whatever they take. So they only take a fraction of those, put them on the waiting list. They do it randomly I don't know whether they do it every year, every 2 years. So you've got that whole constellation of people out there that, they're not gonna get section 8.
Right. And some of the people I've talked to actually applied for stuff and they said that, and they were retired, they're like, we're, the whole too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. They're like, by $200, they missed it.
Yeah,
And stuff like that seems, I was surprised how many naturally occurring there was. They're not a lot. I was just surprised
Yeah,
to
right.
see it, but it seems like every article I've read, every conversation I've had, I don't know if it's on purpose or it seems like there's no acknowledgement or like clear statement that like, the student housing is the reason why there's very few options for affordable housing.
well, it's demand. Demand exceeds supply,
Yeah,
right?
and the
So-
student
in
undergraduate
our
pressure
plan.
increases the demand.
Right.
If you look at, we're gonna be coming out with a market analysis as part of the Northwest Plan. And I think and if you look at, I think in the plan of conservation development, it might, I mean, that our rents are artificially. No, we acknowledge that our rents are high in Mansfield because of the student population.
Right.
I
But
think that
two
it's
points
written,
to that, like, we also know that we have some inventory that is empty in town because the rents have been inflated.
Mhm.
And so
right,
that, right, so
Yeah.
there's some, that happens. And also, there's a lot of data that shows that it's not, it's also, we have, I think the thing I learned as well being on this committee, senior housing is a thing like that, and that has nothing to do with the students. So
Right.
how is affordable housing as an umbrella? We might have some gaps for younger people because of students, but overall, our biggest gap is seniors, which has nothing to do with the student population. So, but what I was reminded by your statement is, I do think there's a way to get at all of the landlords. It's like a low hanging fruit that offer affordable housing, but we're not catching them. So like for me, for example, I'm offering affordable housing in a house, right? Like if the town came to me and was like, hey, you want to put a 40-year thing on that? And right, I would be like, why not? I'm already doing it, right? So I think there's other landlords and some rents that are,
So you'd get a guaranteed rent though, you'd.
or that it get a tax abatement or something, like
Right.
we're just doing it because it's the right thing to do, but there's other properties where rents are lower, but it's
Which is what
catching
Chad was
those
saying.
people, yeah, that's catching some people. Does that make sense?
yeah,
And, you know, I think because that is happening. And so how do you say to some landlords, like, you did the right thing or come do the right thing?
yeah, how do
Tax
you?
abatement.
Yeah,
Tax abatement or a
Well,
deed restriction,
and then say,
Well, as long as
make
the
a
deed
deed
restriction,
restriction so that it counts.
yeah.
Right, because it's not counting because I didn't do section 8, and.
Even if
um,
you did section 8, we're already counting those vouchers in our inventory anyway, so it's not
Gonna help,
gonna help the
But
town's
so-
inventory.
yeah.
We don't
And it-
have any project-based section.
And it might actually catch some of the affordable student housing that's being offered,
Dude.
that's lower, and maybe we could
Well-
get it to be a nicer.
would a deed restriction placed on a property, a 40-year deed restriction, reduce the sale value of that property
Sure.
within the 40-year window?
Sure.
So I mean,
Yeah,
that would be
so-
one reason why a landlord might not want to
Yeah.
put a 40-year deed restriction on, because I'm gonna, they're giving low rents to
Yeah.
the deserving people, but suddenly they need to sell because they, lost their job or something, and then then what are they gonna do? So the deed restriction is a tricky business, and.
It's just like a conservation easement.
Yeah,
You're losing value from your property. You
right,
have
but
to
it's
be-
permanent.
I actually, but I
That's
think
the
we
problem
would
with
get it for these buildings is actually where I think we might get it. Which actually, like, the buildings that have either the grad students or some students, or there's just, like, I know a lot of young people are living them, like, those
You mean like
older
the Dime?
buildings.
Places like these big weird kind of 5-family places.
No, all of our little, like,
Oh, the old
apartment
apartment
units,
buildings.
yeah,
Oh,
all of those.
Oh, like the Knollwoods, the
No.
Oakwoods,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Millbrooks,
But
the.
they've been turning them over they've been upgraded. The one over here, they
know.
upgraded and like doubled the rents and kicked all the
Kicked all the
low-income
low
students,
people
people
out.
out and
Well,
got,
they reduced the number of actual total units and
Mm.
turned fourplexes into duplexes and
Yeah.
rented by the
Yeah.
bedroom.
yeah.
And so that, I mean, the highest best use of the
Really?
property is always gonna prevail.
That's if
without-
they even rent them.
Well,
Here.
Are they
right,
renting them?
'cause think
Knollwood's
that-
full. Knollwood was
Uh,
100%.
We're getting a little off
yes,
track.
we are.
Okay.
But we have
Anything
someone
else
that
on
joined us.
tax abatements?
Was David here before?
Oh.
David Rhodes, no? There he is.
I was like, someone just.
You know?
No, I never even thought to.
So tax abatements,
So, yeah, following up on this other discussion about the status of all these buildings, is that something we want to talk about in a future meeting? If we do, we need to.
You mean, are you talking about status of buildings? You mean the status of our aging apartment complexes?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about,
and
buildings?
Specifics.
Or single family homes, or what are you?
The things we were talking about here.
Yeah, like,
All of those
I'll
things.
tell you what,
Is that in our
it's an action
purview,
item
though?
I would.
Is that something we should?
Let's hold off.
Let's stay focused.
If
We've
if
got a
you
lot on
want
our
to do
plate.
that, I'll ask for topics at the end of this meeting. and
Okay.
You can suggest it. Anything else on tax abatements?
No, we've got our.
So we have our action. Good. So next new item was Department of Housing Development Engagement Process. So the background on this is state funding for affordable housing. At the Connecticut Affordable Housing Conference, Mike Santora spoke and said there's a lot of money going into this particular program, and he encouraged people to apply. They will fund new construction, substantial rehabilitation, or preservation of affordable housing. There's 2 announcements a year. One is spring, one is fall. The spring, we can expect March or April announcement. And the turnaround time is super fast. So you have to already know what you're doing well in advance. Then the other one is fall. That's probably going to come out in September. The award amount is, they say, up to $4 million per project, or if you're doing it by units, $100,000 per unit. So those are all in the discussion. The process is you put in a preliminary application, and then if they like it, you meet and talk to them. You have a discussion with their committee. And then if the discussion goes well, they invite you to do a full application.
and that's something like that we could work with the housing authority. on?
Yeah, yeah.
That's like,
Yeah,
and that's what this consultant would manage.
right. So the thing I like about it is they're not wasting time. You do a preliminary application. If they don't like it, they'll tell you. And you haven't done a full proposal. If you're writing a full proposal, they probably like what you're doing, and the chances of it moving forward are good when you do all that work. So that's good. I just cut and paste the preliminary application into the package, what they're asking. So you can see they're asking for, I'll just summarize really quickly. You can read it. Detailed description of project, existing conditions, land use pattern, demographics, development activities, transit, target population, leveraging of funds, amenities, financial aspects, and special compliance. So this is something where you have to have a pretty good sense of what you're doing going into this. I mean, realistically, I don't think we could get something together.
Well, we couldn't get together. It would have to be a developer.
Yeah, this wouldn't be something the town would do. This
No.
is something like the housing authority would
Right.
do, or we would encourage.
Could we work with them?
Well, we could, I mean, what would our role be?
I mean, they know how to, I mean, they have their own architect and consultant. And they know how to put this together. And one of the problems they had in doing Eagleville Green is that they couldn't, DOH kept pushing them off because they didn't have funds they could leverage. And now they're in a different position.
Right.
And that leveraging for DOH is extremely important.
So what we
Um,
could do is if they needed, so they would do this project.
Right.
If they need leverage, then they come to the town and say, we're short $1 million.
Right,
Or like Eagleville Green, we've given them, it's like 2 million in gap financing through the community challenge grant. And then we said, okay, we'll pay for your sewer upgrades that you need. Because otherwise,
right.
and then we'll make a beautiful multi-use path in front of your place. So
What if, could we share this information, like just say, from the Affordable Housing Committee?
Right.
We wanted to share that the state has this opportunity, like to all the landlords in town, like through the rental office, like, could they do an email blast and just say, this is an opportunity we wanted to make sure you're all aware of because the town is supporting affordable housing. Please let us know if you plan on applying.
No.
Yes, however. I think sharing this with the housing authority, and I'm pretty sure they're already aware of that, is something that gives us, I think I'd want to start a little small, because what could happen is, then perhaps you would get like an 830G project, which then we don't have any local zoning control, any design. And, 830G is great, but you can get, 830, it's a crisis, it's a way to get more affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
But you're not gonna,
You wind up with an 8-story building.
Right.
in the middle
and
of-
it may not be, it may not have, great landscaping or amenities. The trash might be not screened, you might not get,
Right.
all the things that we've had and we've gone through so much, a property management plan, you know what I mean, all those things.
Doesn't this seem like this is something we might want to talk to a prospective, someone who comes forward to the town and says, I'm interested in developing affordable housing, and what do I have to do? And there's some sort of a educational process we might be able to assist in by pointing people to this thing,
Well,
but
this is not, they do this all the
and
time.
it seems like these companies
They
that
put it-
know about this
Yeah.
stuff already know
The
about this.
nonprofits know about it and,
So what I'm hearing is we want to connect with Mansfield Housing Authority to see that if they're doing this and sort of,
That's what I'm gonna talk with Rebecca, just,
Rebecca.
yeah.
okay.
Send them up.
did you want to say anything to Mr. Rhodes? Who's joining us? Michael?
Mr. Rhodes, welcome.
Yeah, I misread the time for the start, so
Oh, no.
I had hoped to make a comment, but instead I was just about to email it to everyone.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I had hoped to make a comment, but instead I'll just email it to you and it can be distributed for the next meeting.
We can take a comment now.
It's a bit lengthy, and it's pertinent to the next topic, so.
Okay.
Or maybe he can email it and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Next topic being what?
The master plan?
Oh, no, I thought you were on, maybe I'm not keeping up. It was on the high density housing.
No,
We're way past that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I got here late because I thought it started at 6, sorry.
Okay.
I'll send it in. I'll do it the right way. I won't interrupt the meeting
Thank
with
you.
it.
David,
you.
send it to,
Dorothy?
yeah, who are you gonna send it to?
To D. Delvale.
Yes.
Yeah.
perfect.
Awesome.
That's right, and she'll distribute
Thank
it.
you.
Be the part of our next packet.
Okay.
Carry on.
Tired. It's full length. Good.
Actually,
okay.
I like reading this stuff sometimes. It's easier than.
So the action on that is Jennifer's going to connect with Rebecca and report at the next meeting.
Sure.
And we're not going to reach out to others on this at this
I
time.
think let's,
That's fine.
yeah,
Because it's spring. And then once we learn more, if we have a different plan, we can do that in the fall.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
right.
Excellent. Good. So the next item of new business is the facilities master plan. So
This thing.
yes, just look around. Very exciting.
Well,
so
this
let me give.
Talk through these.
Yeah, just a plan.
Well, this is a plan right
Wish
now,
list.
and it's a very, very expensive wish list, okay? So we are working with a consultant to basically get community input as to, what they value, what they want to see in terms of our town facilities. We know we've heard from many people that we need a new senior center. We have these 2 aging schools. There's all sorts of things that we need. So our consultant Civic Brand is coming into town, and they're going to be doing some community outreach. And I think this committee is, we should have them reach out to you and make sure you can get on a couple focus groups but I need to check with Maria, who is managing that.
Is that the way, or could they bring a representative to one of our meetings and let us spout off at them and talk to them? And
Well, I think they're kind of
Yeah,
trying
too
to
focused.
come in and do this all at once, but they might be able to come to a meeting. I could check with them.
Well,
For example.
if they spoke
Okay.
specifically to some of the items in this list that are applicable to us. I mean, I don't want to talk about the dog pound or whatever, that's not really relevant to affordable housing, but it might be useful for us
Poor dogs.
to might be useful to focus the conversation on the affordable housing elements of this with a committee that's already focused on affordable housing and has some insight.
Well, I'd like to know, for example, so I was really interested to see what they laid out for the Goodwin School senior housing concept. So I want to know, what do they base this on?
So we had,
Yeah.
well, way back when they hired an architect and who did kind of a conditions analysis, and this is what they said maybe could happen.
Is it an
at Goodwin.
architect who has developed senior housing before?
It's TKSP, they did the school, so they did
They
a
did
high
the
level, they
school.
did a high level, these are not architectural plans, these are
No,
like high level concepts.
You know, they took the old building and they changed it around inside and
well, I just
Yeah.
want to know if these are people who've developed senior housing.
No.
No,
So-
No.
this is,
they're not.
this is, you know, like
No,
classic, try to make use of this old building.
Yeah.
Design.
Yeah.
One thing that struck my attention in the conceptual, the Vinton property where they
Yeah,
made it into small lot residential.
yes,
Those ain't small lots. Those are 2 acre plus properties.
I don't think that's small, did they say small?
Well, no, they didn't say.
I-
that.
That's,
We don't,
that's a conventional subdivision.
well, yeah, and that, we don't need any more of that, I think, as far as I'm concerned. We have plenty of like 2 acre properties and, you know, wells and septic tanks. If they could make this into larger properties for 2-family condos or something like that, that might make more sense to me. I mean, this is low density of, why would the town want to give up good town property for more low density?
Well, that's
residential?
precisely why they're coming to, this was sort of an architect and an engineer coming and
see.
saying,
Okay,
this is what, maybe this could work, but then, you know, are we gonna give up this town land, like you
Yeah,
said?
right, okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
no, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, it's a non-starter.
Senior housing, nothing affordable about it. Senior affordable housing would be great, not senior housing.
What, 24 units or something?
Yeah.
Of course, there's no money for any
Two
of this,
bedrooms,
right?
what does a senior need 2 bedrooms for? Most seniors are, you know.
Well, eventually you may need to
Well,
have
one of them has a
helper come in
CPAP
to-
machine or something, makes a lot of noise.
You may need that.
Right.
Yeah,
They don't make
I'm
a
just
lot
saying,
of
but
noise.
from my perspective, you know, I don't need it, I don't need a 2 bedroom.
This is a
You know,
1
1 bedroom would be fine. You get more in there with 1 than 2.
well, I'm just intrigued. I think I love.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ideas in this thing.
Right.
They're working.
The Vinton-
So what is the time frame on this process?
So they're coming in we're nailing down a date for them to come in February, and there'll be a public workshop, I believe a public workshop. And then, but definitely a lot of community engagement, and they're gonna be asking staff to kind of identify key people that they should reach out to. So I'm multitasking, and I'm gonna email Maria and Ryan and see, let them know the Affordable Housing Committee would really like to be part of any engagement.
So is Vinton
Right.
set to be demolished? Is that why that it was set, I guess I'm.
It's, the
that's-
suggestion is that the building is not useful for anything.
Right.
Yeah,
Do
that's
it-
what, because they would have to pay to demolish it to then, but they didn't say that for Goodman.
Isn't
So,
isn't it loaded with asbestos? From my understanding?
Well, Southeast was,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
There's a huge
so
demolition
Goodman-
process.
yeah, there might be an asbestos problem in
Yeah.
Goodwin or
Ah.
something. There might be, I'm
Oh,
not
so
sure.
Goodwin must be, was that checked out?
No, they'd have to take out the asbestos to put in.
I'm not sure,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Probably all the details that no one is worried about.
I
yet.
Knock
thought
it
they
down.
thought there would be too much
Take
money
it
to
out.
try and renovate it and put in any other kind of apartment in there.
For
And
Vinton,
because, yeah, and it was best to
okay,
tear it down, so.
there it is.
Maybe that should be the dog pen.
So our action on this is to participate in the
Yeah.
To reach,
Workshop.
have
It's our
Jennifer
radar on
reach
it.
out to,
February timeframe and then follow up from that.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
Oh, yeah, that they should just understand that the Affordable Housing Committee feels that it should have a role in communicating the note, that whatever plans come forward get properly vetted by people who care about affordable housing. I guess it sort of goes without saying.
Good.
Is
Um,
event and property on?
Sure, no,
Sure.
no.
No.
I was just wondering.
Oh, which reminds
Just
me,
gonna ask, like,
Which could be why they
Dur-
have 2 acres.
during the high density housing event
Workshop.
or workshop, there was one guy in our group who said that there are ways that septic can be there. You can figure out ways to build high density or medium density on
Yes,
septic
you can.
systems, and that.
So your community septic system,
Yeah,
but generally
community.
deep
Right.
has
And,
to,
and he talked about
yeah,
there having to be a soil analysis around town to find out whether there are properties where the soil is adequate for that purpose.
yeah, that would be, you know, yes, it can be done. It's much, you have to, I believe the health department doesn't regulate those. It's deep.
Mm.
So it's a much more complicated
Okay.
process.
Hmm.
Like, for example, like, Redwood, that's not a septic,
Yeah, each 2 units, so it's 2 per building.
right? And like,
Hmm.
then White Oak condos, that they just did a complete septic renovation, it's community septic. So
they
there's,
probably pump frequently.
it's a whole,
So they're required to show proof that it's pumped every 4 years per the housing ordinance. We enforce that part with the community stuff. It depends on which one you're talking about. Some of them have a lot more issues than others, so some of them have to be dragged kicking and screaming.
So the issue is what the Department of Environmental Protection go in and regularly inspect and,
that's a health department one.
No, that is.
Yeah,
That was the
Yeah.
health department. Yeah.
Eastern Highland comes around.
Yeah.
but deep one is a specific, like, the White Oak Road has a deep system, the Department of Energy Environmental, not deep, but
but do they do the regular inspections?
I think so. That one was just finished like about
Okay.
6 months ago. So, because they were under a deep consent order.
If there's anything like the community water system enforcement, I wouldn't be super confident in it because there's a number of places in town that are egregiously violating EPA rules and in complete non-compliance with state rules, and they're operating with no problems, even with complaints made. So I don't know how,
Right,
I don't know how that, yeah,
right.
I don't know that I would put a lot of faith in it, I guess is what I would say. So
Right.
that's one of the good things about, for the ones that we regulate, is that there's at least somebody here that's checking it. But
Good, okay, let's get back to business. We're set on the master plan. So staff reports 2 items. Any updates on fee and lieu or the trust fund application?
Fee in lieu, that's gonna be addressed when, as the Planning and Zoning Commission updates, it's right, it's, zoning regulations.
I'm sorry, when is that?
It's in
a
process,
process,
it's
right?
part of this high density housing, because the fee in lieu is paid by multifamily developers, so right now there's a moratorium. They are, the Planning and Zoning Commission just received a text amendment to the zoning regulations to enact, it's basically to extend the existing moratorium on high
Right.
density housing. There were 2 exceptions to that moratorium. One was if someone came in with 50% senior housing for,
Yeah.
and the other exception was in the PB4, which is where King Hill Road is. The Planning and Zoning Commission decided that a member asked for that moratorium to be amended to remove those exceptions. So that is the text amendment that is going to public hearing now.
I wondered why the PB4 thing should be given a pass.
Right,
I mean, senior housing,
right.
didn't trouble me, but the PB4 thing does actually.
I'm not
That,
sure.
and that expires, it's set to expire August 31st, 24, because it just takes time to do these regulations.
Because the PB4 is where we got in trouble with our current fee and lieu structure.
Yes.
You recall.
Right. Right.
Okay, Anything on the trust fund application?
No, I think the trust fund application is really gonna be handled as we move forward with these conversations with,
Potentially getting a consultant.
yeah.
So then we have to run it over to the attorney and say, oh, is this gonna work? Is it-
Yeah, and I
is
think
language for-
maybe the consultant is gonna work with that because it's gonna depend on like, are we doing loans? Is that something that, you know, there's a lot of things that, how we're distributing that money.
Yeah, it's hard to do things specific and detailed when we haven't got anything coming at us and we haven't got a plan actually, or a concrete application or interest from.
Well, we wrote an application, but we don't know. if
Yeah, but
it's
we don't have anyone who's like stepping up and
Right.
saying, we want to do something.
Right.
That's when it gets easier to help them.
I think it's almost, yeah, so
Does anybody have a black magic marker or a blue pen?
Blue
I
pen.
think,
I have things
This
I
is
have,
blue.
all right, here, I have things I have to do here, and I just want to make sure I get them all done.
Oh, so you write it in a different.
Oh, we should have brought you a red pen.
Yeah.
I have to stop saying yes. I have to start doing.
Oh, we're getting to the end of the agenda, so you're safe. Maybe. Okay. So anything in the communications anyone wants to discuss?
A lot of stuff
Lots
in
of
the
stuff
news,
going
yeah.
on. Okay, so future meetings, our next meeting's in about 2 weeks, February
February
1st.
first.
Yep.
So topic suggestions, I think we have plenty from tonight to fill the agenda. So this is what I wrote down. Quick thing on the review form for the applications. Tax abatement, we're gonna revisit. Development engagement process, just updates. Consultant updates on that.
Yes.
Gina said possibly get someone from Yukon Housing, so that'll be back and forth. Till then, is there anything I missed?
No, but on that subject of the getting someone from Yukon Housing,
Mhm.
I think one thing we ought to put on an agenda somewhere is establishing a more permanent connection with the town gown committee or Yukon or somebody on the housing to facilitate better communication on this.
So this is,
This might be the
Well,
way
no,
in,
because
but-
I don't think
No.
we would be sitting on here.
I mean, we have a town and gown, we have a town and gown committee, right? That's supposed to be doing some of
but
this.
they removed, didn't the
Yeah, they-
university remove?
Well, they got the person back, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, that position has been reinstated.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. the
So-
superintendent did that.
So in light of that, I just think it would be better if we could figure out a way to put an arm into that conversation on a regular basis
That's a good point.
and find out.
Well, but the council, I mean, the mayor is, you know, the council meets with that group, so it wouldn't be us, but we really.
Well, that's my complaint, if you will, is that we don't get as much information as we might need to steer our mission.
So what's the proper way to do this?
Yeah, because perhaps
Do
it's
we-
just requesting of town council that we have the ability to have a liaison.
Yeah, we have a member of our committee sits on the town gown committee.
These were recommendations that we sent to them about, in the report that we gave the town
Yeah.
council, there was a strong recommendation about looking at university property and discussing, I don't have it in front of me, but there was a recommendation about how we should be working with the university. So maybe following up on that.
Yeah, following up.
Well,
Well,
But
there's
we
two different
weren't
elements here.
specific.
Yeah.
There's specific properties. I was talking about writing a letter to OPM and the governor. There's that process,
That's right.
but this, I'm thinking at a more communication level that we have some permanent connection to the town gown committee or to Yukon
Yeah.
housing people or something, so that we can get the information we need at the times when we're.
That's a letter, that actually is a letter to submit to Margaret Shady, who does the agenda and the staff, and you can submit it to me, that you respectfully request that that would mean changing their charge. It's a joint committee, so that has to go, Yukon and the town would have to review that, and then like, you'd have to kind of develop reasons why you think, why they should have.
It really has to go to the mayor first. I mean, doesn't it? It has to go, we can't just go around the mayor and go to the
No.
town gown committee.
Well,
Uh,
let me ask the manager on.
Okay, because
Yeah.
the town council wants us to have
Advisory. committee.
information, and we can make it happen, right?
I mean, and anyone is always, able to attend those
Yeah.
meetings. And there's an opportunity to public comment, but
Yeah, that's too iffy
So-
for me.
There's no point.
So you're
in
gonna
going
ask the
if there
manager
isn't a
about the
priority issue
process
Yeah.
and
Right.
for Town.
specifically for us to have a representative on that committee?
is that what you want? What do
Is
you
that what
want?
we
I
want?
don't know what they
I
do.
don't see any.
No, because it's really the development office at UConn. It's not even the housing department, right? Like you have to really kind of think how UConn operates.
Yeah.
They have a person that coordinates all of their development and, that's the person you want to be like, hey, we need to know what you're doing and you need.
Well, I know,
to-"
but there has to be.
So then are we
policy that the university
requesting that we
has.
have?
I don't know what the
regular
town
meetings
down
housing.
committee
with
talks
that
about.
office?
Yeah.
They talk about when are they gonna do this project
know.
and how does it affect traffic? and
So we're gonna
If they
request
Look at their minutes.
or-
What-
that we can
Lots of
interface with UConn's housing office.
No,
No, let's.
no, you can't
We need-
interface
we need
with.
much
No.
more information before we send out letters.
Anyway, I'm just trying to
Really?
find a way we can establish a channel between the town and UConn on the subject of housing in
Yeah.
particular,
Is
not,
that
Well,
not
I
enough
think
just-
for
we
you,
should say- we
Jennifer?
should-
to
Well,
move forward?
so- But specifically what? Because I meet with. We have a Ryan, Cynthia Van Zelm and I meet monthly with UConn. We've got, we've met. Our new liaison is Nathan First, who,
Right,
Director of enrollment.
undergraduate?
but he's now,
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
he's
a big
switched.
title.
He's
Yeah, he's a
switched to-
VP
he's
or
a VP.
something.
he switched up. I don't know, but he's now and then the new John Armstrong will work for Nathan. So, and then we meet, and also Robert Corbett, who is their like executive director of real estate. So we have a monthly meeting and then we have like guest folks that come in, like, we're gonna be meeting with Pamir Alpay, who is head of the
VPR.
the tech park. And, so
VPR,
what's the,
Vice President for Research.
Yeah.
I
yes,
don't
he
know
is,
if
you're
he's
right,
still-
you're right, yeah, I'm thinking of,
Well,
I'm
could
not-
they come and present to us?
about what?
Well, I
Yeah,
guess
what do we?
it really has to do with what is the town seeking in this relationship in the town gown committee? What what are the town's priorities in working with UConn? Yes, they want to stay informed of what they're doing, but what is it that we want, what is it that the town wants UConn to do that they're not doing?
Well,
Part of this was in our report to them.
or for instance, if the UConn says, look, we're gonna spend another $4 billion and upgrade all of our student housing so that students want to live in it again. Shouldn't we know that when we
Yeah.
get applications for more private student housing? Shouldn't we
Well,
know
the
that?
zoning should know that.
Well, but,
we don't.
but they don't necessarily.
The zoning wouldn't know. if
Well,
we-
some- someone should
zoning,
know.
zoning wouldn't,
Wouldn't know that at all.
Or the
well, and
council
we
should know
wouldn't,
it.
that wouldn't be our purview.
No, but it wouldn't be,
Right,
but it
like
would be
we-
the public's purview. It would be, members of the community's purview to
then-
scream and holler and make noise and try to make
Then
their
what do
own.
you do? You change your zoning so that we can't do more multifamily? Because that's the only thing we can do to control it.
I was using that as an example of.
No, he's just
Yeah.
saying it'd be nice to know what.
I'm
the-
listening,
Well,
current action.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't know that we have a clear action, right?
You don't.
Maybe-
I don't,
maybe just-
okay, this ain't gonna happen. I don't think this is gonna happen. you know?
I mean,
No.
I
Too
think,
broad.
How about if I go have a beer with Premier?
There you go, there you go.
Well,
you
maybe,
know.
I'll buy the beer.
Yeah.
show him.
maybe, at the risk of getting
No,
myself
I don't know
appointed
anything about
to something,
housing stuff.
maybe
He's a
we,
research guy.
maybe
Did
we,
tech for a while.
Okay,
maybe we
There's a
designate a
department.
member of our
He's a great guy.
committee to go to the public town gown meetings and just sit there and figure out what's going on and ask questions.
Yeah,
if
but
they
it's
need to.
important to also talk to
Yeah.
the mayor about what it is the town's
Well,
concerned about.
the first thing but by going to the meetings, you at least establish a
Yeah, That's
context
fine if you
in
want to go
which
to
you
the
can,
meetings.
well, that's my,
That's a good idea, Paul.
That's the problem. Where's my foot that I can shoot the other?
So one of the things that you could do is you could look at their agenda in minutes, to look at the items that they
Yeah,
do
that's-
discuss.
Why don't we make that an action item? We
And
do
there
that.
is an
To
update.
watch their meeting.
No,
And
just
To look at their agenda.
Oh, you watch the whole meeting.
Let's not
You're
put that
allowed
on our
to
agenda.
appear
I
while you're
mean,
doing.
I mean, I think if you're interested in
so-
that, you should look at what they're doing.
I guess I
There
should.
is a development update by
Yes. No,
Mansfield
you're-
and by
Right.
UConn at every meeting.
Okay,
So that is updated and that is made public. So, and they also have a similar development website as we have.
oh, yeah?
Yep, it's a,
Oh, the link, can you send me the link?
if you send me an email, I can,
Okay.
it's like development activity, UConn.
Yeah,
Shonda,
I know
and-
they said you come to that.
I can probably find it
Yeah.
myself.
And it like details what they're doing.
And the time.
I just,
Can I ask their chair?
I mean,
Can I ask their chair what that thing to do is?
The chair of,
But for what purpose?
Town down.
But for what
So
purpose?
to increase our communication.
On what, on what?
on
We're
the
not-
subject of
we're an
housing.
Advisory body to the town council. I mean, I don't,
But it'll inform us so we can give better advice.
well, look and see what they're doing. You can see, you can look right online to see what they're talking
got 2
about.
minutes.
Well, excuse me, you can't necessarily. I'm gonna cite you
Okay.
an example. The purchase of the Capstone property. That came out of the blue like a bomb
Right.
and sank a whole lot of people's
And
plans.
then we,
And then we all went crazy and said, oh,
well,
But we
it was
stopped
on an
them.
agenda.
it was on a consent agenda before the Yukon Board of Trustees. And
I,
there's no way that you
right.
can look at that
Don't
agenda
forget
and see what they were
So
gonna do.
here's the accent.
Let's go back to that very simple question.
Here's the,
Desire is to have more effective communication between this committee and what UConn is doing around affordable housing.
Correct.
So let's keep that our focus, simple
yeah, but we
question.
don't,
No, that can't be that difficult to find
No,
that out.
except
I
we're
mean, we have
totally
well
exceeding our
qualified people
authority
around
to do
this
that.
table.
so here's an
Let's
accent.
not turn it into a big. do
Everybody
this, do
should
this, do this, do this.
research the last town gown meeting
I'm not gonna read.
or the last couple. And
Excuse
see
me, I
what
don't know
they
what
did.
that- I don't know what that means.
It's the
Time down.
University
And what's the official
Town
name of the
Relations
committee?
Committee.
the town
How do you
university
pronounce it?
relations.
What are you
Okay.
saying, town?
The
Town
Town
University
University
Relations.
Relations
Oh,
Committee.
thank you.
And so if you go on the town's website, you'll see their
Okay.
agenda.
Yeah.
If you go on
Well, that
the
shouldn't be too hard.
If you go onto
Do a little
YouTube,
homework.
you'll see their,
Okay.
you can watch their meetings and see what they're doing, and
Yeah.
if what they're doing
That
is
answers the
relevant
question.
and adequate, then we might have a.
The
action.
relevancy comes from what the town is presenting to them about what their concerns are and what they wish to be kept informed of.
I think people just want to know a bit more. so I
Okay, yeah,
think-
look, yes,
But
If
housing.
they can do their, and
I'm
you
not
can
gonna-
disagree.
I'm not gonna look.
Yeah, there you go.
That is required homework, that, look,
Sorry, it'll be a quiz.
okay.
I move to
Our
adjourn.
Next order of.
I second,
Like third.
Okay.
What time is it?
just on the button almost.
6:30. You
Okay.
guys are great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Filling out the application, I don't know, for, I'm filling
Oh.
out the form.
Yeah, your questions were good.
So
Dorothy,
remember, we.
Dorothy.
They were simple and kind
I don't know. I'm.
I hope you had fun, Chad.
Like,